When Sara Cox crossed that finish line wearing Crocs because her feet had swollen beyond recognition, nobody expected what she'd reveal about her body afterward. The BBC Radio 2 star just raised over £10 million doing something doctors probably would have advised against, and what happened during those 5 days of running exposed a side of celebrity challenges nobody talks about. But here's the thing that's got everyone questioning everything. The recovery turned out worse than the actual challenge. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why 50-year-old women everywhere are calling Sara Cox their new hero. The challenge started with Sara owning exactly 0 pairs of running shoes. When celebrity trainer Professor Greg Whyte met her to plan this insane mission, he realized they had 10 weeks to transform a non-runner into someone capable of completing 5 marathons in 5 days. That's 135 miles across Northumberland, Durham, North Yorkshire, and West Yorkshire, carrying the Children in Need mascot Pudsey bear from the Scottish borders to the town of Pudsey in Leeds. The symbolism was perfect, the logistics were terrifying, and Whyte had his work cut out for him. He's the same guy who trained David Walliams to swim the English Channel, so impossible challenges are kind of his specialty. But Sara's situation was different because time was not on their side. Training kicked into high gear immediately with a brutal schedule that would make most people quit before starting. Sara went from couch potato to running 5 times weekly, supplemented by 2 to 3 strength training sessions. Whyte knew pushing too hard too fast would destroy her body before the actual challenge even began, so recovery became the secret weapon. Cold baths, compression tights, strategic rest days, all carefully calculated to build endurance without breaking down completely. The longest single run Sara completed during training was significantly shorter than what she'd faced during the actual challenge. But Whyte insisted mental strength matters more than physical preparation for ultra-distance events. Psychology beats physiology when you're asking your body to do something it was never designed for.
The challenge launched on Monday, November 10th in the wild beauty of Kielder Forest. Day 1 went better than anyone expected, which should have been a warning sign because ultra-marathons never stay easy. Sara and Whyte talked the entire way, not about running technique or pace strategies, but about complete nonsense. That was intentional. Displacement therapy, Whyte called it. If your brain is busy discussing random topics, it forgets to focus on how much your legs are screaming. They encouraged walking the hills without shame, referencing Tom Evans, who won the UTMB race specifically because he was the best hiker, not the fastest runner. This wasn't about speed or athletic perfection. This was about getting from point A to point B without your body completely giving up. Then Storm Claudia decided to crash the party on day 5. The final stretch to Pudsey became a brutal test of willpower as rain pounded down relentlessly. Supporters lined the route, clutching umbrellas and wearing waterproof jackets, their enthusiasm somehow cutting through the misery of running in terrible weather. Sara's feet had transformed into something unrecognizable at this point. Swelling had reached levels that made wearing actual running shoes impossible. Those Crocs she wore crossing the finish line weren't a fashion statement, they were a medical necessity. Her calves looked like someone had attacked them with a bat, swollen to proportions she'd never experienced before. She joked about finally having shapely calves for the first time in her life, which tells you everything about her attitude throughout this nightmare.
Friday afternoon, November 14th, Sara Cox stumbled across the finish line in Pudsey to thunderous applause and immediate tears. Friends and family mobbed her. Scott Mills grabbed her for a live Radio 2 interview, and the reality of what she just accomplished started sinking in. That's when she admitted what everyone watching already knew. This was the hardest thing she'd ever done in her entire life. The phrase, "really silly idea," kept coming up, which felt like a massive understatement considering she could barely walk. Her immediate post-finish interview happened while she was still processing the physical devastation. The adrenaline and crowd energy carried her through those initial moments, but the real damage assessment was coming. Prince William sent a video message congratulating Sara on her achievement, which made her cry all over again. Then Stormzy, the grime artist whose music had been her constant companion during the toughest miles, recorded a personal message. He admitted she'd completed 5 more marathons than he'd ever done and praised her for raising money for such a beautiful cause. Sara's reaction to that message showed genuine shock and gratitude. These weren't generic celebrity shoutouts. These were people genuinely impressed by what she'd accomplished. The fundraising total kept climbing as people watched her struggle and triumph in real time. 6 million became 7 million, then pushed past 10 million pounds. The final count exceeded 10,169,000 pounds, with roughly 35,000 collected directly from spectators along the route. Monday came around and Sara appeared on Scott Mill's Radio 2 breakfast show to give everyone the brutal truth about recovery. Her opening statement crushed any romantic notions about bouncing back quickly. She couldn't really walk. The recovery was tougher than the actual challenge, which nobody tells you beforehand. Your body goes into shock after you stop abusing it. During the 5 days of running, adrenaline and necessity keep you moving forward. Once you stop, everything catches up at once. The swelling worsens, the pain intensifies, and simple tasks like walking to the bathroom become monumental challenges. Sara admitted she had no idea what she was thinking agreeing to this, which honestly everyone could relate to, because who signs up for voluntary torture?
But here's where the story gets deeper than just physical suffering. On day 4, as Sara crossed another finish line, she made a statement that resonated with women everywhere. She talked about the whole woman of a certain age concept and how society expects women over 50 to fade into the background. Her voice rose with passion as she told the crowd gathering around her that women aren't having that narrative anymore. We're not gals, we're not women of a certain age who need to hide. We're over 50 and we're claiming our space. The crowd erupted in cheers, though she noted all the men looked confused by the sudden feminist rally happening at a charity marathon. Social media exploded with women sharing that moment, talking about how Sara inspired them to attempt their own challenges and stop accepting limitations based on age. The documentary crew following Sara throughout the journey captured everything. BBC Studios Entertainment produced a behind-the-scenes film showing the preparation, the breakdowns, the triumphs, and the absolute misery of pushing your body past every reasonable limit. Footage showed Sara in moments of doubt, questioning why she'd agreed to this insanity, then finding reserves of strength she didn't know existed. The editing couldn't hide how genuinely difficult this challenge was. There were no Hollywood moments where music swells and everything becomes easy, just raw footage of a woman suffering for a cause she believed in, surrounded by people cheering her forward. Sara's personal history added extra weight to her achievement. Before becoming one of Britain's most beloved radio presenters, she survived a very unhappy relationship early in her career. She lived in a converted church in Arnos Grove, Anfield, with an ex-boyfriend she described as horrible who stole from her. Getting out of that situation and building her successful MTV and Big Breakfast career took courage. Her first marriage to DJ John Carter lasted 4 years before ending in 2005, leaving her to raise daughter Lola Ann. She eventually found happiness with advertising executive Ben Sizer, whom she met at Glastonbury Festival. They celebrated their 20th anniversary together recently, though Sizer prefers staying out of the spotlight. This context matters because Sara's marathon wasn't just about raising money. It was about proving to herself what she's capable of, overcoming.
The comparison to previous Children in Need challenges became inevitable. Vernon Kay walked 115 miles in 2023, emotional moments included, raising massive amounts while connecting with listeners who'd written him heartfelt letters. Paddy McGuinness cycled nearly 300 miles from Wrexham to Glasgow in 2024, pushing through 8 counties on a bike. Both challenges were monumental. Both raised millions.
Both featured celebrities pushing past their limits for charity. Sara's challenge fit perfectly into this legacy while adding her own unique spin. The woman of a certain age narrative, the complete lack of running experience beforehand, the brutal honesty about recovery, all of it created a story that felt distinctly hers. Supporters following Sara's progress online used the live tracker on the Children in Need website to watch her move across the map. Towns and villages prepared welcomes. Radio 2 listeners lined routes with encouraging signs, and donations poured in constantly. The communal aspect of charity challenges can't be underestimated. People weren't just giving money to an abstract cause, they were supporting Sara specifically as she suffered through something extraordinarily difficult. That personal connection drives fundraising in ways generic appeals never could. Watching someone push through genuine pain and exhaustion makes you want to help, makes you believe your donation directly contributes to their ability to continue.
The aftermath continues unfolding as Sara deals with physical recovery and processes what she accomplished. Her body will heal eventually, though the swelling and pain serve as persistent reminders of those 5 brutal days. The £10 million will fund countless projects helping children across the UK who desperately need support. The documentary will inspire others to attempt their own challenges, whether running marathons or simply refusing to accept society's limitations based on age. Sara Cox didn't just complete 5 marathons in 5 days. She proved that women over 50 can do impossible things, that mental strength overcomes physical limitations, and that sometimes the hardest part isn't the challenge itself, but everything that comes after. That's the real story here. Not just the miles covered or money raised, but the fundamental message that we're all capable of far more than we think. And age is just another obstacle to overcome, rather than a reason to stop trying.